We would like to talk about sexual minority, especially LGBT. First, what is the LGBT? LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Lesbian is a woman who is sexually attracted to other women. Gay is a man who is sexually attracted to other men. Bisexual is people who can be sexually attracted to both men and women. Transgender is people who feel that they belong to the other sex and not the sex they were born with, and who express this in their sexual behavior. LGBT is general term of sexual minority, including these people. Today, it is said that the percentage of LGBT people in Japan is 8%. This number is more than the number of left-handed people or the people whose blood type is AB. It shows that LGBT is familiar for our daily life. Recently, how the country spread the understanding of LGBT is one of the most important issues for all over the world. At this moment, 24 countries, including Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Canada, and Republic of South Africa, has legalized the same-sex marriage. On the other hand, there are some countries which strengthen the pressure to LGBT. Russia, the important bills with which bans propaganda of LGBT was enacted in 2013. In Africa, 38 countries homosexual behavior prohibited. Also in Japan, it cannot be said that Japanese society gets the understanding of LGBT. LGBT partnership is not recognized legally, and it is difficult for LGBT people to coming out their international sexuality.
I will mention the present situation of Women University and a policy of Ochanomizu University and Tsuda University. Kimiko Murofushi, who is the president of Ochanomizu University, held a conference on July 10th. She announced that her school admits transgender students who hope to study at a women's university based on their gender identity. There are 3 steps to decide to accept transgender students. First, the school received an inquiry in 2016, and second, set up a working group and discussed again and again. Finally, the acceptance was decided in a board of directors. In interview by reporters, she answered some questions. I will introduce some of them. What is the way to confirm whether a person is transgender or not? A reporter said. She answered that basically a medical certificate is needed, but a self-return is also examined. She said to continue to talk about details in investigated commission. A reporter asked about the reaction of students and teachers. The president said the university held explanatory meetings in many times, and students and teachers gave a favorable answer. However, it is true that there were anxieties of response to transgender students. Although Ochanomizu University decided to accept transgender students, measures are not completed yet. Other women's schools such as Tsuda University and Japan Women's University are considering to modify their admissions too. Since we are Tsuda University students, we must know how the president of Tsuda University thinks about transgender students. Tsuda University has set up a committee until 2017. Then the discussion with not only university's professors but also experts are held. In the future, schools have to know the idea of students and people who were graduated from school. In school meeting, it is important to improve consciousness of minority and secure the environment which is comfortable for students and professors. Professor Takahashi said, conclusion will be came in a few years. Since all people should have the same right to study, the acceptance of transgender students is good, but at the same time, there are some problems. As early as possible, women's university should make an effort to create a comfortable university to study for transgender students and not transgender students.
Next, I will tell you about the advantages and disadvantages of transgender. The advantage of accepting transgender is the possibility of knowing transgender people will increase more and more. In daily life, the opportunities of interacting with transgender people is not much, so the understanding for these people is not enough, and discrimination for transgender people is still existing in our society. The most important point is that we should know that transgender is not special people. They are the same human beings, so their right and our rights should be equal. To be extended such way of thinking, understanding for transgender people is needed as a first step. And women's universities, which is educational institution, need making efforts for extending the understandings for transgender people by accepting transgender. On the other hand, the disadvantages of accepting transgender have the problem of restroom. In general, setting the restroom which can be used by both men and women is the solution for the problem of restroom by accepting transgender. However, the problem is not so simple. As long as the discrimination for transgender people exists, transgender people who enters women's university cannot use the restrooms which can be used by both men and women because it needs worrying about the periphery of the eyes of around people is needed. Next, I will tell you about the foreign movements of accepting transgender people. According to HuffPost, the University of Smith, which is known as Noble Women's University in Massachusetts, started to accept transgender students since 12 to 2015. If both men, students with identities as women, target for enrollment. On the other hand, admission to students with male identity after birth is not allowed to enter this university. As understanding from examples, the understanding from transgender people in women's university is extending gradually. Thank you for listening.